Buddhist monks and ancient yogis have long placed a strong emphasis on one-word observation. We must focus our attention on something in order to see it, which implies that we may materialize a desired quantum event in our own lives by giving it the proper attention. I will thus discuss how to utilize your attention to create the world you want in this video. Because the most effective thing you can do as a co-creator of reality is to learn how to focus your attention. So let's start the process. Let's examine how the world that appears is truly determined by our attention. However, in order to comprehend this, we need to understand the flow of energy whenever you feel trapped in life, as if you're looking for something that never turns into reality. Or it's like being on a roller coaster ride where the same things keep happening, the same connections that you draw. It's important to identify the points at which energy becomes stuck. Energy gets stagnant when it is unable to flow, which is what energy needs to occur. And we encounter the same situations when it gets static. What then controls the energy's flow? Pay attention. Energy flows wherever focus goes. Where energy flows is determined by our attention and concentration. The majority of people are unaware that there are two primary categories of attention that make up human nature: polar and non-polar attention. Realities might be attracted to or repelled by polar attention. Any issue may be solved by looking at it from a different angle. Polar attention works as two distinct sides of the same coin. It repels something and attracts something else. Let's analyze this further now. Apart from polar attention, non-polar attention is totally impartial and has the ability to disintegrate reality. Let's now examine the implications of this for the manifestation of quantum events in our life. Assume that there are two different kinds of polar attention: negative and positive attention. Life doesn't care what our genuine focus is when we think favorably about anything. It is concerned with the content. We will draw more occurrences from something we despise. In the same way, we attract more of the things we love. For us as humans, this is the important thing. Because it is in our nature, we have been conditioned to live in a state of dread and survival throughout our whole lives. Above all, we've been conditioned to survive. And what is the most powerful and important survival approach? Removing and evading any danger to our continued existence. We've thus been socialized to live in a protective mode that steers clear of danger and conflict. This indoctrination is what has formed a lot of us in this manner. We are seeing more and more of the things that are concerning us. Consider what you see on social media and in the news, and why fear seems to be spreading more than anything else. This is the way outside forces may control and sway us. There are a great deal of self-satisfied individuals who would fight in a battle to defend what they like. Although this is commendable, it often causes individuals to become unaware of the true situation. Since it is extremely simple to get someone to do what you want them to do when they are furious, it is also quite simple to get someone to do what you want them to do when they are terrified. Thus, the emotions that society uses to keep us imprisoned are fear, wrath, and pride, which direct our attention towards the things that force us to behave against our better judgment. Because they are clinging to prior traumas, most individuals continue to have the same kinds of relationships over and over again. They continue to attract the same kind of relationship and partner, since their attention is primarily focused on avoiding the kind of connection they had before. Most individuals worry that they haven't properly digested an experience that has traumatized them. This is the role of non-polar or neutral attention, but more on that in a moment. For the time being, we must recognize that attention comes in two flavors: positive and negative. All that matters in life is the substance of our attention, or rather, what we focus on more. Let's imagine we live in a world where we are faced with a crossroads in our life path, such as a struggle at work, with a coworker, employee, or any other issue. If we decide to look at it positively and focus on things like how this circumstance presents us with a chance to develop, we can conquer this obstacle and emerge stronger as a consequence. Here, we are drawing into our lives the energy and circumstances that align with our optimistic outlook. But it is awful if we decide to see the same circumstance adversely, and this becomes the focus of our negative attention. This is unbelievable. I can't believe it. There is no way out, and it will be a tragedy. After that, the energy reflecting this pessimistic outlook will be drawn to you. It's critical to recognize that life reacts to the substance of our attention, regardless of the kind of that focus. In other words, the lifeline would change to a more positive one if we believe that it will somehow aid in our own development. Good feelings attract more good things into our lives. Negative feelings attract negative things and make us believe they are awful. Take note of what's taking place. Our minds interpret positive information as positive when we are feeling good. Our minds interpret unfavorable stuff adversely when we are feeling bad. How can you tell if anything like this is wrong? All you're doing is presuming it out of fear. You get more afraid when you experience terror. When we experience fear, we attempt to rationalize its existence by considering other scenarios that can amplify the anxiety. So why do we act in that way? Because we are sentient creatures. We feel alive when we experience something which helps us survive. This is the state of our biology. When we're afraid, we begin by making a mental inventory of everything that may go wrong. At that point, a vicious cycle begins, as the unfavorable attention begins to shape the focus of our attention. The essential problem here is that the heart and the head need to communicate with one another. Your mind begins producing bad ideas as soon as you experience unpleasant emotions in your heart, and those thoughts then come to pass. This places you in a matching lifeline where bad things continue to happen. But non-polar neutral attention is what matters most in this situation. Something that has occurred to us just appears in our lives and disappears. When we see it with non-polar neutral attention, it cannot control us. For instance, you may just accept the bad circumstance as it is. It is not met with either positive or dislike. You would go on with your previous course in life. Really, nothing would change. The circumstances would just vanish. Most individuals give their old anxieties and traumas negative attention in an attempt to overcome them. Consider the mechanism behind this. When something bad occurs in the past, we attempt to avoid it since the emotions are strong and we are unsure of how to handle them. In reality, we're opposing it when we flee. And what happens if you put up resistance? It continues. As a result of your strength, it pushes back against you. We live from a traumatized place and spend our whole lives fighting against everything that has occurred in the past that we don't like. Consequently, circumstances that validate this trauma continue to arise. So keep in mind that everything has two sides. You have the last say. You have complete control over how you choose to see things. Now that you know this, let's discuss how to apply it to reality creation. We should effectively blend polar and non-polar attention as our initial step. This is important, so listen carefully. You may use it in 3 basic phases, and if you follow them, all the energy you put into that negative focus will go away, giving you more energy to put into creating the wonderful reality you desire. Let's discuss how this works. Acceptance is the first step. We must acknowledge that we have reached our lowest point when we find ourselves in what seems like an abyss. We are unable to refuse once we accept anything. Resistance and acceptance are mutually exclusive. The opposite of resistance is acceptance. Please make an effort to comprehend this. We are not storing up energy. Redirecting and moving aside requires no exertion at all. You really desire to achieve your objectives. You just get in the way. All you have to do is clear the path so they may exist. We begin by fully accepting the state of affairs as it is. Imagine that this has occurred, despite whatever issues you are now facing, any situations you feel hopeless or trapped in, or any nightmare you may have. You recognize that life continues on, despite it occurring, and you're quite okay with it happening. Your darkest dread has left you worry-free. It has stopped haunting you. This is crucial, because most people assume that if they accept the worst-case scenario, they would unavoidably invite it into their lives. You won't, I assure you. In contrast, you won't be providing it with the energy of your resistance if you accept the worst-case situation. It's more likely to happen if you keep resisting it, since you'll be feeding it. But that's where neutral attention comes in, if you simply accept it and move aside. Acceptance is the absence of bias. We must first accept ourselves before we can go on with any aspect of our existence. Entirety, complete, and unconditional acceptance of this precise time. No matter how hard we try, we cannot alter the current moment since it is ever-changing. It's already the past, even if you are trying to grasp it. Right now, there is nothing that can change. Making a decision about what you want to happen in the following instant is something you can control. We often deceive ourselves into thinking that we are to blame for any mishap. We get bonded. We identify with the actions we do, imagine the worst-case situation, and fully embrace it. In this manner, you eliminate any significance. Realizing how this setback or unfortunate situation could perhaps be a blessing in disguise is the second stage. Any occurrence is neutral when it occurs. By the very nature of our attention, we may turn it positive, negative, or neutral. We might consider how this can be advantageous rather than seeing it as something negative. How may this now be beneficial in my life? When I say a blessing in disguise, what do I mean? Sometimes something occurs to keep us safe. Perhaps there is something negative about that circumstance that God or the universe is keeping from. Perhaps there was a reason why it took place. Have you ever thought that maybe this is occurring for a purpose, just like every other event in your life? The universe was attempting to protect you, because if you hadn't missed the bus, it may have been involved in an accident, or anything negative might have occurred. How do you know that after you've achieved a level of acceptance, doing something will be simpler? You shouldn't expect yourself to search for blessings in disguise if something negative has just occurred to you and the wound is still raw. Simply come to terms with the fact that it really occurred. As you settle into a more neutral condition, you may begin to consider the possible advantages of this. Redirecting our focus towards the intended outcome is the last stage. My attention will be free to pick anything I want, if I'm in a state of perfect acceptance and serenity. You will become invincible if you master this technique. You are unstoppable. Your attention is the key to determining which life route you choose, which quantum event emerges, and which quantum event you experience in your life. There's a reason why so many prehistoric societies and religions discuss paying attention to something, watching something, and being in an observational mode. We're mixing the two here. After using non-polar attention, we enter the acceptance phase. We simply have to accept that it occurred. This is neither good nor bad. Then we begin to consider the benefits that could be hidden. The positive mode is the last one we reach. This is one of the most potent processes we have, at our disposal to bring about the reality we want when we are in a state of serenity. As a collaborator in the creation of reality, your greatest asset is your focus. You can materialize the life you want if you can learn to guide it successfully. Therefore, if you're feeling awful about yourself today, give yourself permission to acknowledge and embrace that sensation. That's the lesson I want to leave you with. And after you've achieved equilibrium, you may shift your attention to what you want. However, if you attempt to conceal, reject, or stifle your emotions, they will eventually come back to haunt you. Whatever you're doing at this time may be an act of resistance. Saying the affirmation truly prevents you from feeling anything, even if you're simply making them up in front of the mirror. That might be the situation. If you follow these 3 steps consistently, it may drastically alter your life. You free up energy that was wasted on resistance when you learn to accept, reroute, and choose what is desirable. You're making good use of your attention to manifest the world you want. Recall that accepting involves acknowledging the current situation rather than giving up on it. Our vision clears, and the path to our goals becomes apparent when we are in this accepting environment. We free up the energy we would have used to struggle against the worst-case situation when we accept it. And it is when change is propelled by our attention. When we shift our attention to what we want, reality adjusts to suit. We have the power to choose our own route, shape our experiences, and determine our fates, since we are co-creators of our own reality. When we decide to focus on the things that really matter in our life, that is when the actual change starts. Proceed with self-assurance and determination, since you are the creator of your own destiny. Thank you for embarking on this journey with me. I request you to like and subscribe to our channel if this video resonated to you. In order for others to benefit from this message, please share this video with them. Remember to share your views, observations, and experiences by leaving a comment below. Once again, I appreciate you joining me and watching. I'll see you soon, and take care.